What were three plays that could have changed the outcome of the 2021 season? What should be Boston College basketball's shopping list? And we'll get into everything else in the news on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Happy Thursday, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the day. And on today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about everything. We're going to dive into basketball, dive into football, get into everything in between. But today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has covered you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's kick this episode off with our discussion about last year. I was just thinking, I hate looking back because it's spring football. You want to move ahead. But I was just thinking about the 2021 season and kind of thinking about what could have changed the outcome of a 6-6 year. What were some of the things that happened? And I thought of three specific plays that really kind of changed everything for this season. And I'm talking plays that negatively impacted them. So for today, I'm going to kick off by talking about three specific plays that were game-changing and kind of turned BC from a 9-3 team to a 6-6 team. So let's kick it off. So the first play that jumped into my mind was against NC State. And this was the second half, and it was a punt from Grant Carlson. And this was a punt, and it ended up not being a punt because Grant Carlson fumbled the ball. NC State took it in and basically ended the game there. Now, why was this play so critical to the loss of this game? Well, Carlson, up to this point, was the darling of special teams for Boston College. If you go back and listen to the first couple games, especially the Clemson game when he was flipping the field over and over again, punter Grant Carlson was a big time asset, and Jeff Hafley was loved to talk about what he was doing for this team. So he had been the model of consistency, and so BC and NC State. They're battling back and forth. It's a low-scoring affair. BC's defense is keeping them in this game. And they go to halftime just down by a score. And then this play happens. And it was the play that really pretty much took the wheels off on a game that BC, for a whole half was really into. So, I think this play... I think something else probably would have happened just because NC State was too talented and Dennis Grosel couldn't move the ball. But I think this play really was the catalyst for a big time loss here. And I also kind of make this play, it wasn't just this play, but it was also the first half that kind of catapulted Dennis Grosel's real struggles. Because up to this point, remember, Grosel against Missouri was fine, against Temple was fine, against UMass he was okay, Clemson he was okay. This was the game where it kind of just went off a cliff. So I'm going to go with the punt, but it really kind of catapulted where BC really started to struggle for a while here. So that was my third big play of the season. My second one, we were just talking about Dennis Grosel. I'm going to talk about him and Alec Lindstrom here because the botched fumble at the end of the Clemson game was mammoth in terms of how the season kind of progressed. Now, BC at this point was 4-0. They were battling against Clemson, who Clemson looked very beatable. And Boston College hasn't won in Death Valley since Matt Ryan was there. And that, 2006, 2007, it's been a while. And, Dennis Grosel is looking great. He's in that last drive. He's moving the ball effectively down the field. He's throwing it, he's making his hits. He gets them down to about the 10-yard line. And then disaster strikes. Just like that botched fumble, this play also kind of derailed a lot of the momentum for the season, right? Because BC looked like they were going to march in and score again and take that lead and probably win that game. And you hear different. It's hard to gauge what exactly happened because both got, he and Alec Lindstrom kind of said different things. It sounds like Dennis Grosel pulled his head up too quick and didn't see the snap come. Whatever the reason was, he dropped the ball. They lose. And then all of a sudden, the sheen of the season really starts to come off. And the sheen around Dennis Grosel starts to dissolve a little too, right? Because I admit it, and you guys have ripped on me for it, and I deserve it. But Grosel, up to this point, I had said was a serviceable backup. And, as the season goes along, I was wrong. But, this was the first, real, ooh, that was a major, major issue. And something you could pin on him for the reason the Eagles lost that game. So that was another big one because it really changed how your outlook of that quarterback position went. And as I said, we go to the NC State game after that, and it really falls off. And the biggest player of the season that really changed the outlook of the season is not anything anyone's going to be surprised with. It's going to be Phil Jurkovec's injury against UMass. It was a stupid play, not even a stupid play. It was just a stupid injury. He was doing what he's done hundreds of times before, which is just run through a pile. I mean, how many times has Jurkovec pushed a pile or Jurkovec, shoved 3 to 4 defenders and nothing's happened? Well, this time he breaks his hand. And at the time it felt big, but when you saw what happened later, you don't get to see, now we're looking in hindsight, you could see more so that play really changed the outcome of everything. Because if Jurkovec stays healthy, if Jurkovec does not get hurt, how many games on that schedule could BC have won? They would have beat Clemson. Absolutely would have beat Clemson. I argue they could have beat NC State. That would have started them off at 7-0. Now, they probably would have had a stupid loss in there, but they could have been a 9 or 10 win team. Easily if he stayed healthy. There were so many games. The Florida State game, he played in, but he was hurt. They would have got trucked by Wake Forest no matter how healthy he was. And Louisville or Syracuse, I think they could have won one or both of those. So, that injury, and I'm speaking to the choir here, but in terms of season changing, is one of the biggest season-changing plays in a while. You have to pretty much look back to one of the Anthony Brown injuries from a couple years ago. I mean, he's been hurt twice, but one of those probably would be up there, but they're not even as big as this because we saw against Colgate what Jurkovec could do, when he's healthy, how dynamic that offense could be, and then to have it all taken away, and then everything else changes after that. So those were my 3 big plays that changed the outcome of the 2021 season. There's not a lot of sports going on. I was thinking, what would be something fun to talk about? And I found the most depressing topic to bring up. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Do you disagree? Was there another play that you thought, maybe something on defense that I'm missing? But those were my thoughts heading into the 2022 season. Now, in a moment, we're going to discuss a little bit about basketball, and I want to look at what their shopping list should be as they head into the transfer portal. So, your bracket's busted, you and everyone else. Don't worry, we believe in second chances, and so do our friends at Run Your Pool. Round up your friends who picked Baylor, Kentucky, or any other high seed to win it all and start a Sweet 16 pool at runyourpool.com/lockedon. Along with Sweet 16 brackets, Run Your Pool offers square pools, yes, like the Super Bowl, to keep things interesting every week of the tournament. Brackets bust, but the fun doesn't have to stop. They have the options to edit scoring, and they offer more intel to make your picks. All stuff you won't find at the big media bracket sites. And if you're looking to expand your horizons, Run Your Pool has games for just about every sport, including the NBA, PGA, MLB, and even the Oscars. Once the madness ends, try something new. Plus, they offer full white glove customer support, custom branding, and one of the easiest 3-minute setups you'll ever find. Clearly, we believe in Run Your Pool because we run Survivor and Bracket contests there this year ourselves. So start your second chance Sweet 16 pool and more at runyourpool.com/lockedon. That's runyourpool/lockedon. Now, anyone else take Baylor or Tennessee and now your bracket's busted? Yeah, mine's not looking too good either. I am in the bottom of a lot of different brackets, but I still got some cash from my StatHero pick'em. If you haven't checked out this new platform, you're really missing out. StatHero's NCAA game pick'ems pits the star players against each other in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Take control back from those handicappers that always seem to have the advantage and start focusing on the players you know best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. StatHero gives you the advantage, resulting in their gamers winning 4 times more often. Why? Because StatHero eliminates the mystery about who or what you're going up against. In addition to their pick'em games, they have dozens of lineups you can comb through to take on head-to-head, and they simply post sets of players for you to take on with a set of players you can choose. StatHero is easy and fast, and it gives you your sports action fix. So head on over to stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. stathero.com/lockedon, promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions apply. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. And if you have not done so already, head over to Maroon and Gold Forums. It's our forum that we've created about 6 months ago that I put together so that fans of Boston College can come and speak and get your thoughts out there. It's a great way to meet other BC fans and discuss all the big topics. We've got some really active users, and if you're listening to this, I'd love you to be an active user. It is absolutely free. There's a premium board for my premium members, but the active board of free users is huge too. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I hate Twitter, and I know a lot of you guys do, go to the message board. It's a nice way to kind of go in, go out, make your thoughts known, get some news, connect with other BC fans, talk whatever you want. And I'm not a big into moderating a lot. So if you guys have thoughts that, I don't agree with, as long as you're being cool about it, I usually pop in, say a few things and leave. But I hope you enjoyed it. It's maroonandgoldforums.com. Make sure to check it out. Let's get into basketball. I know the talk about basketball and the discussions now that the season over should kind of mellow out a little bit, but I think it's still something worth discussing. So men's basketball, the transfer portal is hitting hard. There's about 580 players, I believe I heard last, that have already entered the transfer portal. Boston College has only got one. Right now it's Kanye Jones. And so heading into next season, the big question is, what will be BC's direction in the transfer portal? Who are they going to go after? What position are they going to hit up? And before we get into what their shopping list should be, I think it's more important to look at what kind of scholarship flexibility they're going to have. Now, right now, they have 11 scholarship players on their roster. They had 12 to start the season, but Fred Scott left. So you want to look at what they're losing, first of all. So they lose 2 guys. They lose Brevin Galloway and James Karnick. They're both definitely out of eligibility. They're both going to graduate. They're both going to head out. That's 2. Then you're going to lose Mekhi Ashton Langford, probably. And that's the big one, right? He technically still has another year of eligibility left, and he could come back. I know his dad was on Twitter kind of being coy about it, and I've heard buzz that he does want to come back, and I heard BC wants him back. So that would mean that he wouldn't be gone. So you'd have 3 guys going, and so you have Karnick, Galloway, Fred Scott. You also have Kanye Jones, 4. Now that is all kind of washed out by the freshmen coming in, because you have Prince Aligbe, Armani Mighty, Chaz Kelly, and Donald Hand, or DJ Hand he goes by. That's all 4. So you basically don't have any other transfer portal spots if nothing changes. And as I've said on this podcast, I don't expect them to not lose another guy. I think there's other guys coming, and I've mentioned a few. There's a few guys that, could be surprises too. So let's say that BC loses 2 more players, and they're more of benchy players. And what would be some of the needs of this team going into next year? Now, BC desperately needs some shooters. That's the first thing I think of, right? You have Jaden Zachary, who really kind of came on near the end to really become your go-to spot shooter, a guy that could shoot from deep out. But I think every team always benefits from a guy that can come off your bench and shoot. And BC didn't have that last year. You brought in Brevin Galloway. He was supposed to be that guy, but credit to Brevin. He played with a leg and a half. Obviously, when you're a shooter, having your legs underneath you is a big thing, and he didn't have that, and it's not his fault. He was hurt. So you want to see them kind of go out and try to address that, find a guy that can do that. That would be one big thing. I also think another wing would be important. If they have two spots, I'd like to see a guard that can shoot in a wing. A wing that could back up, more of an athletic wing. Someone who could spell, TJ Bickerstaff, or, if they're going to go with two forwards, take that third spot. If they're going to go with three guards, that doesn't really matter. But you could always have a two wing set to go with your offense. So I'd love to see another wing. And, they've got Devin McLaughlin on their bench. He didn't play it all this year, so I don't know what his deal is. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's transferring. I don't know what his deal is. So he could be that guy. He's 6'7". He definitely could be that forward. But if they need to go out, that's been kind of their MO right now in the transfer portal, is they've been going after a lot of wings. One position I don't think they need is a big. I actually think they have too much big going into next year because, well, they're not too much, but you have going into next year, you have Quentin Post, who's going to be your starting center. And then Armani Mighty is going to be your backup center. You have Justin Vanderbond, if he's still here next year. So you have three there. Now, if Vanderbond leaves, you're off, and I'm not sure he will, but I'm just saying, just pretend here for a second. If he leaves, you would be down to two. Could you go through the season with that and maybe have Bickerstaff be your emergency center? Yeah, or you could go out and get another center to go along with it. Someone who's not going, but he's not going to be much because you have your two guys that you want. You want Mighty and you want Quentin Post to get those minutes. It's going to be someone who's going to be happy playing a Vanderbond role. I don't know if they're going to need that. So I don't think a big is a big deal here. So my shopping list, and I think two transfer spots is probably around where BC could be at. They could just be at one. Who knows? But right now, I'm guessing two. And you got to consider Mekhi Ashton Langford if he comes back, almost like a transfer, because you didn't expect him to come back for another year because he's technically, without the COVID year, out of eligibility, but because COVID kind of screwed everything up, he can come back. So is he better than what you would get in the transfer portal? A lot of cases, I'd say yes. He came on near the end of the year and at different points to become one of the best guards on this team. And I personally, I think this team wouldn't be where it was without Mekhi. I know he's limited in some spots, but man, I'd love to see him back for one more year. He grew so much under Earl Grant that I think one more season with him wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. In our final segment, I'm going to preview tonight's game for the WNIT and get into a little bit more into some BC news from around Chestnut Hill. Now, this is the time of year that I've been pretty much up on all my New Year's resolutions. I've given them up on all of them, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs yet? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they're 100% covered in chocolate and are loaded with protein. So Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors, including yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, and I just got a text yesterday for brownie batter. Hopefully that's still there for a while so you can try it out. They're so good, and they're making my mouth water right now. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to anything else, you're not going to beat it, and the taste is delicious, I'm telling you right now. So head on over to Built.com and make sure that you use our promo code LOCK15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black. So there's only one really news item, and then I have a topic I kind of want to end the show on. I'm going to throw an audible here, which I apologize if you were waiting for a ton of news. It was a quiet news day. So BC women's basketball tip-off tonight at 7 p.m. at Columbia, against the Lions. Now, this is going to be a great game. When I saw Columbia, I obviously am stuck in my male-centric sports world, and I was thinking men's basketball. I'm like, man, that's one of the worst teams in the NCAA. But their women's basketball team is really good. They've won over 20 games. They really kind of ran ragged through the Ivy League. So, and it's a road game for BC. This is going to be a good game for the Eagles. And if they win this, I expect they're going to have to go back on the road again. I think they're going to probably have to play at Seton Hall if they win this game. So expect, that it might be done for Conti Forum time for the year. But it's going to be a great game. And if Taylor Soule can build off of what she did last game, where she had 33 points and 16 rebounds, BC should be able to win this game. But make sure to check the game out. I believe it's on the ACC Network Extra. So if you want to see that. So my final little discussion, I wanted to talk about the AD, something we don't really talk about all that time, Pat Kraft. And people have been asking me on our members-only Discord about Kraft versus Jarmond. And a lot of the fans are like, oh, we miss Jarmond. He was so friendly, and he was always telling us what's going on Twitter and reacting to us. And they were wondering, where my thoughts are with that. And here's kind of my thoughts on Jarmond versus Kraft. And we've got a couple years of Kraft now under our belt. We've seen him make a couple hires. We've seen him, get some projects going on campus. So here's kind of where I'm at with that. Martin Jarmond is a fantastic face for a program, right? He is a guy that goes out there. He's shaking babies' hands, kissing babies, shaking hands, doing all that good stuff. I remember going to a tailgate and he's out there handing out trash bags. That's nice. That's a nice thing to do, right? And you can't argue that he didn't do a great job, at least with the football hire. He hired Jeff Hafley, and that seems to be a good hire. On the other hand, he didn't pull the trigger on Jim Christian, and you can easily argue that should have happened a couple of years ago. So that's a kind of a knock against him. In terms of building things at BC, I think he might have been part of the baseball field, but like the fish field house was Brad Bates, and the basketball court that's coming up is on Kraft. So, he did decently there. However, why I would pick Pat Kraft right now is I see what Jarmond did a lot of as almost window dressing. Like, yeah, it's great you're out there, saying hi and going go Eagles at every tailgate that you go by. But do you want that, or do you want a guy that's behind the scenes fundraising his butt off, that's getting projects done so that you can improve the infrastructure of your program? Pat Kraft is a very, very smart guy behind the scenes, and he's doing a ton of stuff, but because he doesn't have a Twitter account, some folks are like, I don't know what he's doing. I don't care. And I think that's kind of myopic when you're doing that. Like, it's very tunnel vision. Twitter is one thing. It's nice, but remember, what is it? Like 7% of the population uses Twitter. It's not the end-all be-all. The fact that he's out there, that he's, mobilized the donors, he's mobilized the alumni to come back and to give to BC, because he had to fundraise for that basketball court, is a big deal. And I think as we get further down the line, you're going to see his impact in the world of NIL be felt, because I think he's going to be a bright guy when it comes to that, about, maximizing opportunities for BC athletes. I think he's going to be good at that. You're starting to see some of it too. They just had Accentures, I think it was called, coming in, and then Adidas is going to be doing something, and that's another piece he did too. I was so happy he got them out of Under Armour and was able to not only leverage it into one good deal, but two good deals. Now, some folks are going to laugh and joke about the New Balance stuff, but you're already starting to see what they can do that's really kind of cool. Like, first of all, I love the Heights uniforms for basketball that New Balance did. Thought those were really cool. They also make custom shoes. They had the players making custom things. They're already starting to build that relationship. That's huge. And I thought they did a nice product. So I have nothing against the New Balance, and it's extra money for the school. So that's a big one. Adidas is a home run for football. Any way you want to put it, it's a home run. They're a great apparel fitter. They're one of the top in the country. Getting in with them is big. And we just saw on Wednesday, the SI reported that Adidas is going to do a whole NIL program to make every player that wears their uniforms an NIL ambassador so they can make money and license and do all sorts of good stuff with that. So that's going to slow roll a little bit. But again, all these little opportunities that you get your players is going to put BC at a good footing against other schools. Because remember, you're going to hear about NIL stuff throughout the world, and you'll hear about like Arch Manning or Caleb Williams and all these big deals they're getting. That's like 7 players in the country that are going to get those big deals. Most players are going to get these smaller deals. So if BC can kind of get themselves competitive in that, they're going to be in good shape. And I think Pat Kraft is a good leader to get them there. So in the end, Martin Jarmond was fine. He was a good AD. I think Pat Kraft gives BC more what they need, which is a guy that's going to build their ACC level facilities and their programs up and get them up to a higher level. We've already seen that most likely this Earl Grant hire is going to be good, that he's doing the right things. So I am more in the camp of Pat Kraft. I think he's a good AD. I think just because he doesn't have a Twitter account doesn't mean anything. And that's where I'm at. So do you disagree with me? Let me know about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hit me up at Twitter at AJBlack_BC or LockedOnBC. I would love to hear what you have to say. Come back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Mailbag Friday. I have some questions from last week that were held over, but if you have a question, hit me up on Twitter. Email me at bostoncollegesi@gmail.com. Find me on Facebook. You can find me on Maroon Go Forums, wherever you want, wherever you see my name. Hit me a message there, and I am happy to answer your questions on the show. We'll see you all again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.